right, everyone. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Deep Dive.
Woo! Episode 10!
Hell yeah, episode 10. Fuck yeah. I am one of your hosts, Practical.
It's your boy Rex.
And we're here to talk about Beetlejuice, Mr. Juice.
Ooh.
Just gotta keep it real.
Just gotta keep it real, Mr. Juice.
So, first of all, we're very happy that it's episode 10. And we thought we would do a special episode for this and cover both Beetlejuice movies.
1 and 2, baby.
Yeah, because the 36 years later, we finally get the sequel to the first, which is an astounding number.
36 more till Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
He was saying like, oh, I'll be 100 when that happens, so I don't think so, but they always like to lie. They
do.
But yeah, so let's kick it off with Beetlejuice, 1988. Michael Keaton, Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin, Catherine O'Hara.
Ooh, who's that director?
Pedophile Jeffrey Jones.
Ooh, that's his name?
Yeah, Jeffrey Jones.
I'm not going to comment on this, but fuck that guy.
Yeah, for real.
Fuck that guy. Am I right?
Absolutely. Fucking. But yeah, and then directed by world-renowned director, goth director, Tim Burton.
Tim Burton.
Who I'm a big fan of. He's not always amazing, but when he hits, he hits.
He hits,
yeah.
And he may have just hit.
Yeah, I think might be his first hit in, quite a long time. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweeney Todd was the last one that I really liked. I don't love it, but I was like, this is still Tim Burton-y territory, and it feels all right.
Okay, I haven't seen Frankenweenie, and that's my bad. I should, because I love just those great animation movies he does.
Yeah,
Tim Burton's great at them, so I haven't seen that one. I loved Corpse Bride.
Yeah, Corpse Bride is good.
But yeah, you're right. But his track record as of late. Kind of waned, you know?
He just has evolved weirdly with the times, which was something I'm going to talk about when we get to Beetlejuice. But
you kick it off here. I want to hear your thoughts on the first one.
I love the first one, dude.
That's what I've heard.
There's a bunch of reasons. Like, it was a movie my brother and I watched together all the time when we were younger. It was just one of those, like, I'm sure you have them with your brother, like movies you've seen a lot together and we talk about all the time, you know. I mean, I know that's out there for a lot of people that grew up when both of you were into movies, but Beetlejuice is one of those movies for me, and Michael Keaton kills it in that movie, and the whole idea and concept behind what they're presenting to us as the viewer is just so dope to me. Bioexorcism. You know, he's a demon using possession and demonic fear and all of that shit as a weapon. And I loved seeing that character. And I don't know, Michael Keaton, like you mentioned right before we hit record, improvising so many of those pretty iconic lines. Mm-hmm. It's badass. And that's how you create an icon. That's how you create an everlasting character to me where, you know, he's very specific, like I said, that exorcism as a weapon. So that's my biggest takeaway from the movie, but I do love the movie. How do you feel about it, though, and as someone who, you know, doesn't probably love it as much as I do?
I don't love it as much as you do, but I do like the movie a ton. It's a great movie. It's a great Halloween movie. It's a great all-the-time movie, actually. It's a great gothy movie in a Tim Burton style. And I love Tim Burton myself. He's got, for me, like I just said, all his animation movies are great. Obviously, the Nightmare Before Christmas is the overrated one, but it's still good. I still love it.
Yeah.
I still can sing every song. But anyways, Beetlejuice is great. I probably haven't watched it enough to kind of get that analysis you just gave. But what I can say is I do love the world he tried to build. He made, the afterlife look so zany, so crazy, and just out of order, so nobody even seems to know what goes on. Who's supposed to know what goes on? Except the lady in the fucking window.
Yeah. That sounds like any government-ran
Right.
organization,
No, right?
but in
And
the afterlife in this instance.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And Winona Ryder in that movie and, you know, this new one did great.
Yeah.
I liked young Winona Ryder.
Mm-hmm.
I like old Winona Ryder.
Yeah, she's pretty talented, especially when you see her in interviews and she's really, you know, anxious. She has a lot of social anxiety, and
Yeah, she looks like she just wants to go home to her cats.
Exactly. So for her to click all that off in front of the camera and play her roles, which a lot of the time are very similar in scope, but she nails it though. You know, she's able to click in. I like her. Like Heathers with Christian Slater. It's a classic. I love that movie. Don't know if you've seen that one.
I don't think I have.
You should check it out.
We'll check it out.
Yeah.
One thing I like about the movie is the kind of predicament they're all in.
Mm-hmm.
How they've got this house. There's these dead people who don't want them there. And then they call this kind of insane man from some weird commercial. And now they're all kind of stuck in it. I don't know. I like those things.
Yeah.
In these types of movies where the tension has brought in something worse.
An outside source. Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's time
Outside
to like
evil.
figure it out.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. And Beetlejuice, whoever wrote him, fuck.
I think it was Michael Gow and Tim Burton for the first movie. I think they created him. And that's why Michael Gow was a co-writer on the new one as well, because he came back. He's not as old as Tim Burton. He's like 55, I think. But
Tim Burton looks crazy.
But I Beetlejuice, for those of you who don't know, just a quick synopsis. The Maitlands, a newlywed couple, had just purchased a house, and, you know, unexpectedly they die. And we as the viewer go along on a journey with them, learning what Tim Burton's version of the afterlife is really like.
Amazing.
Which is probably what I would picture it being, you know, even though it's probably just too outlandish. But anyway, long story short, they're dead for a number of months, I think 6 months or something like that. And a new family moves in the form of the Dietz family, which is I think, real estate mogul and an artist with a teenage goth daughter. And
you were right though, darker daughter.
And they don't want those people there. They want to live peacefully as ghosts, and as they learn the rules to the afterlife, they realize the only real way to do that in the house that they want to do it in is to get rid of the Dietz.
Get them out of there.
Beetlejuice flares up a little ad on TV and lets them know, like, hey, is someone living where you don't want them to live? Give me a call. I'll get rid of them for a fee or for a favor or whatever it is. So eventually, when they figure out how to haunt the Dietzes themselves, it doesn't work in the way they'd like. It makes it so the Dietzes are more curious about them than they wanted. So as a last resort, they turn to the bioexorcist Beetlejuice. They summon him by saying his name 3 times, and a deal is struck. You know, if he gets rid of the Dietz family, he gets to marry Lydia. And very strange concept, but it's an 80s movie storyline, so
it
you
makes
know,
it great.
Yeah, exactly. It gives it that edginess, which is something that basically all the movies of that time period had.
Definitely.
RoboCop, you know, they all have a feel to them, which is what makes them so special. But anyway, that's just a quick synopsis of the movie. I'm sure most of you have seen it. If you haven't, though, if you're listening to us but haven't watched that,
dude,
tell us to fuck right off. Go watch Beetlejuice, and then, you know, fall in love with one of the greatest 80 characters
fuck
of all
right
time.
off. If you haven't seen Beetlejuice at least once, who are you?
Yeah. Why are you listening to us?
What made you click thanks for clicking. But what made you do it? Anyways,
there are those people out there though. Like I've met people where they're like, I know people who haven't seen fucking Forrest Gump, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised. But
those are fighting words. I'm gonna fucking show you what my magic shoes do, motherfucker. You haven't seen Forrest Gump, dude? You haven't Bubba Gump Shrimp?
Damn, apparently those are fighting words for you. Fighting. So tell me, what do you think of Michael Keaton's performance as Beetlejuice in the first movie?
Well, I just found out that he ad-libbed 90% of his lines, so that right there is amazing. Yeah. And he's a great character, chaotic, funny as hell. He's
pretty evil.
He's evil, but I mean, like, he always has this sense of humor with his evil.
Yeah.
So it's not just so fucked up, but he's like, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
Look, I don't.
His humor is good. It's dark and comedic timing is fantastic for him in that movie.
Absolutely. Like and the way he looks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I just love the way he fucking looks, especially when he gets all cockeyed.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. One thing I read about the production of that movie was when they had him all done up in the makeup, Tim Burton was like, okay, how do you think it looks? And he's like, I think it looks pretty good. He's like, but what can make it look a little bit more menacing or dark is just adding more moss to like the sides of his face and shit. And I think that's really cool because he looks awesome to me. Like, I don't know what it is exactly.
Yeah.
But just his very presence, he's just badass, you know?
It's the checkered suit.
But that's part of it. But he looks dope in the fucking all red wedding tux too, you know? So I don't know. He's just cool. I just like that it's like a comedic take on the whole Exorcist thing.
No,
you know?
Absolutely.
And with that in mind, I'm curious too how you feel about like movies like that in general that are kind of horror-esque, but they're not taking themselves super seriously. And if there are any other that come to mind for you in that regard, like that, I don't know. They don't have to be as like culturally significant as Beetlejuice, but you know, just like Idle Hands. Have you seen Idle Hands?
I don't think I have.
Oh shit. When you didn't give me an instant reaction, I was like, wait a minute. Idle Hands is like, it's like a stoner kid who does nothing with his life. The devil chooses him because of that old adage, idle hands of the devil's playground. So
yeah, I've heard of that.
So like his hand gets possessed and starts killing people and his parents, and like all this shit goes wrong for him, and then eventually kills his two best friends. And for whatever reason, they don't cross over, so they're like undead the whole time while he's trying to figure out the hand situation. It's like Jessica Alba's first movie, and when I say if you haven't seen that, you gotta see that. That's all I can say.
Some Jessica Alba.
Hell yeah!
Ow, ow, ow! But I can't think of any. I have to see Idle Hands.
Interesting
movies in that way. Name some others. What do you got?
Damn, another one that would come to mind is like one of Peter Jackson's early movies, Dead Alive. I forget the other name of it. Have you never seen that either?
I don't think so.
Ah, fuck. There's like the Evil Dead movies. I mean, not so much the first one,
I can see
as
that.
time goes on, you know, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that.
I like it because it establishes, like I said, a horror movie kind of background, but it's not, you know, like trying to scare me. It's trying to make me laugh about the horrific things I'm seeing. And I think Beetlejuice is one of those things. You know, the whole movie is almost slapsticky in a way, but it's such a darker toned movie that it doesn't hit you in the same way. That's one of my observations anyway.
It definitely is. The second, especially the second one, one of those storylines was just got weirdly dark.
Yeah.
Like weirdly dark, which is cool. Yeah. Nothing bad about it, but
that's why, I mean, this one's weirdly dark. You know, you got this undead dude trying to marry like a 16-year-old girl, which it's just so wild to have the internet and society alter their perception of those things over time, where it was once accepted, and now it's like,
Well,
oof.
I think it can be forgiven because Beetlejuice's ultimate goal wasn't marrying Lydia for loving her. It was marrying Lydia to come back to the real world permanently.
Yeah,
So she was more of a means to an end, but she was like a little prize on the side. But it wasn't just like, hey, you're 13. I like that.
yeah, it wasn't his age that's drawing, but why not just try to marry
But-
Delia,
but-
or try to, why is he going after the little girl? It's a little bit weird.
Here's the thing. I think after like 190, it stops just age stops mattering, and he's like 290. So I'm just saying, after about that long, it's just age
straight
is
up
out of the question.
necrophilia at that
Yeah,
point anyway.
on her
so,
part.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more.
Well, she wants nothing to do with him. Though,
Exactly. So
it's weird.
it is weird, but again, I don't.
It's weird in retrospect. It was never like hella
Like
weird at the
thinking
time.
about it, like
Yeah,
you are weird, but
I don't think that was the intent of the writing. I think you're right. It was just a loophole. But like I said, you got to think though there were other girls in the situation. Well, just the one, but maybe because she's already married, and maybe the same rules apply in hell that apply on Earth for whatever reason.
I think so, because in the second one, spoiler alert, she tries to marry what's his douchebag name before Beetlejuice shows up.
Yeah,
So I think if you're married, you can't technically marry.
yeah.
So
That would make sense, I guess. It's just we're just supposed to know that as the viewer.
no, definitely back then, and when you're a kid,
Hmm.
all you know is like, why don't you marry the mom?
Well, yeah. Again, you're not even thinking about it as a kid because you're like, oh, this demonic entity is trying to pull a fast one on the living and fucking come back through a
Yeah.
loophole. So you're not thinking. I mean, I doubt even that thought process was that deep as a kid. But you
Oh.
got the premise,
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
And just catapulting Michael Keaton's character into the forefront like that at the end is pretty awesome because, like I said, it's a comedic take on an exorcism, and that's what they try to do that by doing that for the Maitlands, and then he crashes the party at the end, and I don't know, it's pretty great. I really like it. Like I said, I like the whole setup. To me is really clever. The handbook for the recently deceased book, guiding them through the afterlife, and the little lore stipulations that we find out about, like if you committed suicide, then you're deemed to be an employee of the afterlife. They're a worker
Yeah.
for eternity, and I like that type of shit. I think it's kind of deep, badass writing that doesn't get appreciated enough, maybe in modern movie styles, but.
So remind me, actually,
Mhm.
why couldn't the Maitlands move on? Is it because the way they died? Is
Yeah,
that
they
what it
had
was?
like unfinished business,
That's what.
and the
okay.
unfinished business in that lore is like I think they have to be haunting or living or residing in that area that they died in for 200 years or something. I don't remember the
Okay,
exact
'cause
specifics.
I remember
but
it was
like
something
that.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah, but I really like Juno too, like the caseworker. She shows up and she's trying to direct everyone or the Maitlands into how to haunt, and she has them test out their new undead abilities, and I like all that shit. It's just very cool. And at the time, Tim Burton was still a relatively new director.
Yeah.
I think he'd only done like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Batman, and then Beetlejuice,
So
which is
just gotta
it's wild.
say, how the fuck do you go from Pee-wee's Big Adventure to Batman '89? Like,
I just think in those days it was different,
but how do you just do that? Like you're like, I'm gonna make a dude about a movie. I mean, about some fucking creepy dude just looking for my bike, and then you're going to make Batman '89, and that's crazy.
Yeah, you're just a fresh out of college filmmaker. It happens to a lot of those dudes in Hollywood. They just they do their time, in college, and then they make those movies and before their big breaks that get them noticed at festivals and all that type of shit. And then eventually you, like any other job, you just go apply. Like, oh, you're making a Pee Wee Herman movie. I'm Tim Burton, super fucking weird gothic college douchebag. Let me make this. I don't know if he's a douchebag. I'm just kidding. But, he applies for the job. He gets it essentially. And then impressed with the work of Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Same thing. He's like, look, I did the movie about Pee Wee. I want to do Batman. Then they choose him to do it.
I still don't. I'm still not
After
seeing the
Beetlejuice.
connect. Where someone's like, you know what? I saw Pee Wee Herman. He'd be perfect for Batman. Just that's where I'm not seeing the connection there.
He's just like a studio director. Once you
Yeah.
get hired on by a studio, you sign a contract and you get, you have a 4-movie deal. They go through their repertoire of directors and they just landed on Tim Burton for that movie, I imagine. I don't know for sure. I'm just speculating my, the limited knowledge I have of how the process works. And, he had success with Beetlejuice, so he got to do Batman. Because he did Pee Wee's Big Adventure to show the studio, I can do movies. Then he does Beetlejuice, which is largely an original idea of his.
Mm-hmm.
It brings in a bunch of money for him. It becomes a fucking pop cultural icon in movies. And
For
then
sure.
they're like, hey, now we're doing Batman. Burton, you're up. And he kills it.
He kills it. No,
his
for
Superman or his Batman movie sets the tone for the next 20 years of superhero movies.
Imagine if he did a Superman movie, though.
I think
How
he was
fucking
supposed to.
dark.
Wasn't he? He was.
Was he?
I think he was supposed to do the one with Nick Cage, that Superman Lives or whatever.
That would have been nutty.
Yeah.
Nick Cage and Tim Burton in a movie.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because it was supposed to be like Superman later in his career or something. So he was older and more reckless. I don't know. It's based on some comic book like that. Maybe not more reckless, but just like older, and he has longer hair. So that at the time, pretty sure it was Tim Burton. It was called, I think, Superman Lives. Yeah, I think that's what it was. But anyway, yeah, I mean, just
That would have been crazy.
so badass to be a newer director and release Beetlejuice and for that to be your big break. Like
Right.
Pee-wee was big at the time, but again, Beetlejuice being an original idea and introducing the world, it's much like David Lynch. You 1st see a David Lynch movie with Eraserhead, and now you're introduced forever into the world of Lynch or Burton, and what their stylistic choices are. But what are some of your favorite parts of Beetlejuice? Like, does anything stand out to you that's,
The wedding scene.
yeah,
Actually, that whole end part,
Mhm.
but that specifically when he first starts showing up for the wedding, and they start the Maylins start disappearing, and everybody sees it as he's trying to as the Deets are trying to show off the house and the ghosts and get him brought out and stuff. I like that whole scene. Everything that's going on.
Mhm.
I think it's a great scene.
How do you feel about the Deo scene? The Deo.
I don't have a feeling about it.
No? Because it's like a pretty big deal to people with
Is
that
it?
movie. Yeah. Yeah, and something I noticed, well, I mean, I already knew it going in, but in the original movie, when you see the Geffen logo in the beginning, the G as it spins, it's playing the Deo in the background before you even know that scene. And in the new movie, when the Geffen logo spins, it's playing the song that happens at the wedding scene at the end of the second movie. So it's a nice
Interesting.
little touch. But yeah, and I
That's
was just
great.
curious what you thought of that scene, because a lot of people, that's like the possession scene of the movie where Beetlejuice possesses everyone in the room, and I think it's pretty cool. Actually, no, it's the Maitlands that pull that off, but that's what conjures Beetlejuice, I think. Because I remember them running into the next room and they're like, yes, and they're like laughing because they were so stoked that they pulled off a real life possession, which was awesome. That's why I think it's cool, because it's it's an interesting spin on it. It's like the whole party gets possessed, and instead of wildly horrific shit happening, it's like a whole dance montage, and like it's just weird.
It's weird and zany.
Yeah. And I saw people complaining about the second movie having a bunch of musical numbers, but it's like there's like
The
two
whole,
in the first one.
the
you know,
literal
I mean.
end of the movie is her doing that dance
Mhm.
while she's floating.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, come on, you promised."
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool. That's another thing I wanted to bring up about Beetlejuice too, is that Lydia can see ghosts, like even at a young age, you know.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. She's like the Haley Joel Osment of gothic
Mhm.
teenage girls.
I see juice.
I see the juice.
I see the juice.
But yeah, I mean, so anyway, all that stuff in mind and thinking about the time period that it came out in, and you have other possession movies, but they're done completely differently, like The Exorcist, like a decade and a half before that movie, and then you have like Poltergeist, and you have all of these demonic possession spin-offs like the Evil Dead movies as well.
Mm-hmm.
Beetlejuice is weird because it's a comedy, but it's also a horror movie, and I think it's super unique to the 80s. And because of that, like I said, I love everyone in it. Catherine O'Hara, I'm a huge fan of hers.
She's great.
She's fucking great. And I love seeing her do her thing in the first movie because it's so subtle. But that scene where she's going through that newly purchased house with Otho and she's talking about how she's going to fuck the whole house up and make it her own. I love that too. She just kind of kills it. I really like it.
She always kills it in everything she is, and she was hilarious in the second one.
Yeah,
and
she was
on
good.
point.
Definitely.
Loved her.
But all that said, what do you think overall about Beetlejuice? Like, what would be your I don't want to say your rating because it's like
probably like an 8.8.
Yeah, that's pretty strong.
I think it's great.
I didn't expect that. I don't know why I had this idea that you didn't like the movie as much. But
no, I just definitely didn't watch it as much as you.
Yeah, I've seen them way too much.
I like the Beetlejuice movies. Always have. Mm-hmm. I remember watching some of the cartoon they did of it back in the day.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I remember that a little bit, not much, but I think the movie's great. I really like the style it's done in. It has the Burton style, like even though that's like his earliest interpretation of it to the world, but you just see it through the movies. Mm-hmm. It's weird because that snake that he uses in the sand, that's the same one he uses in. It looks like one that he uses in Nightmare Before Christmas. There's this one creature and snake. It looks just like it. Anyways, it's super cool. I like the theme of the movie. I like all the acting. Just like I said, the zany and craziness, the take on the underworld. Like, it's not just some hellhole fucking terrible thing. It's terrible in different, like, more annoying ways.
Gotcha.
Like, there's nothing in there where someone's like stabbing you to death and screaming, you're just like, take a number and sit. Mm-hmm. And who knows how long you're going to sit there for.
Yeah.
Like, that's torture in a different way.
It feels like eternity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think the movie was done great. I love Tim Burton. I love his style. I like this movie a lot. Definitely not as much as you did. But I think it's great. And I love when I watch it every time. Michael Keaton makes me laugh. Winona Ryder, I had a crush on her from that movie when I was a little kid. I was like, is that a goth girl? And, so I think it was great. It is a timeless classic. Like, there's no argument about it why everybody loves it. Like,
yeah,
you just can't. I like to see what people dislike about it.
I'm sure there's people.
I'm sure there are too, but it's like far and few between. I rarely hear anybody be like, Beetlejuice, garbage.
Like people that say, fuck Forrest Gump.
Dude, don't get me on the Gump Trump, I'll fucking talk about it all day. Don't watch a Gump.
It is a what moment. I don't know why anyone wouldn't like it. But I feel that way about Beetlejuice, so different strokes for different folks.
I mean, sure, but Beetlejuice is like a Halloween movie. Everybody loves Halloween. Mm-hmm. I feel like if you love Halloween, you know Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those things. They're like classics, like Jaws or Indiana Jones or Star Wars. I think Beetlejuice is in that caliber.
No,
And,
absolutely.
and it should be if it's not. But yeah, I mean, it's weird because so like you think about movies that are Criterion.
That's what I
and-
was going to ask you
Yeah.
about.
I'm gonna start in episode 10. I'm gonna start a new thing.
What
When we
is it?
talk about movies, I'm gonna basically give what I think would be Aaron's Criterion collection.
Oh, this
Cracks
is Aaron's.
Picks. Yeah, Cracks Prime Picks, the Triple P. Aaron
If you haven't
Criterion
watched
collection.
these, this is what you need to watch. The most important cinema.
So for me, Beetlejuice should be one of those movies. I might understand why it's not. There are a couple of stipulations that can go into a movie being Criterion. One of them is like, Warner Brothers wants to be the one that makes money on any physical media released, so they don't let Criterion press a Criterion version of the movie. That's one possibility. The other possibility is just the board that decides what movies should be Criterion don't deem it Criterion. But I say, fuck those people, because Beetlejuice should be one of those movies.
I can't believe it's not.
It's wild.
It
like
is.
Breakfast Club is. So to me, those two movies are, even though they're polar opposites, they're both standout 80s picks that I think should, the quality of them is just top notch. And yeah, why not? It's fucking Beetlejuice is a 10 out of 10 for me. I think everyone absolutely kills it in that movie.
Absolutely, they do.
Even fucking kid fucking Jeffrey Jones or that pedophile. Like, we don't really want to usually talk about that stuff. We're just talking about the art here. But I will just shout it out as a disappointment because I grew up loving Jeffrey Jones. He's the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's the main villain in Howard the Duck once he gets possessed by the alien, which, a lot of people either love that movie or fucking hate that movie, but I love it. It's such a unique movie. It's just totally 80s, But yeah, and he was even in later Tim Burton movies. He's in like Sleepy Hollow. But anyway, he did some shit and
day.
they wrote him out of the sequel as they should.
Good.
And,
Thank God.
so, and that brings us to, and I'm excited to talk about Beetlejuice.
Double juice.
I don't
Juice
know
on the
how you
loose.
feel overall, but for me, I think we should dive into a little bit of what makes this movie unique and different in 2024, 36 years later. Same director, Michael Keaton's back, Winona Ryder is back,
Almost
Catherine O'Hara
everybody.
is back. Yeah, except for Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis, like we talked about.
Yeah, because, yeah.
But I think there's a good lore reason for
there
that.
is, but the newcomers, Jenna Ortega and Willem Dafoe, Monica Bellucci to a point. She's great to look at.
Yeah.
Even in her age, I think she's great to look at.
She can be good. It's just I think she was shoehorned into the movie because she's dating Tim Burton, and her character, from what I understand, had more to it, but they cut all that shit out. And
They must have got into a fight.
but to give a brief synopsis of part 2, if you haven't seen it yet, again, if you haven't seen it, go out, see it.
Go watch it.
It's one of those movies that I didn't expect to like, but I did. But briefly, the movie is just us diving back into the Dietz lives about almost 40 years later. Lydia has a daughter now. Her father has just passed away in the movie. And then obviously, due to reasons out of their control, Beetlejuice is ushered back into the situation with the whole plot line with, what's her name? Astrid.
Astrid, yes.
Yeah. So Jenna Ortega plays Astrid, somewhat bitter and resentful daughter of Lydia Dietz. And because of her bitterness, it leads her into the arms of a real bastard, an undead motherfucking ghost.
Real butthole, that guy. I'll tell you what.
Definitely. And that's what, brings Beetlejuice back into the mix. So Beetlejuice. Oh yeah, I probably should also mention the side story. It's just so forgettable, but Beetlejuice has the ex-wife played by Monica Bellucci.
Oh, yep.
And she's on a hell-bent revenge mission to get back at her ex-husband, who is Beetlejuice. So Willem Dafoe, who is fucking awesome in this movie,
Fucking great, dude.
An ex-B movie actor, picture Bruce Campbell, but
Wolf Jackson.
yeah, Wolf Jackson, just
Keep it
real. A really good addition to the movie. Willem Dafoe's awesome as usual.
Useless character, but made the movie so much better.
He did, yeah. The whole gag with his assistant constantly handing him coffee.
I couldn't get over it.
It just
dude.
had me dying. Dude.
It's
just
so funny.
But overall, I mean, the movie, it falls on a couple, expected tropes of callbacks to the original, which I think they're done tastefully.
I didn't, I think they were too, because I didn't feel like with Romulus how they shoved a ton in the end.
Yeah.
So maybe they did it a little better here by spacing them out more.
Yeah, it's like peppered throughout.
Yeah. But I think they do a great job of it too.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about the cinematography, because it's a Tim Burton movie, and aside from the set pieces when they're in the underworld, it doesn't have the Tim Burton look and feel the way I remember the old 90s and early 2000s Burton universe movies to look. Like, if you didn't know it was a Burton movie and those Beetlejuice set pieces weren't in it, would you know it was Tim Burton?
I think he was trying maybe to portray it more, like have more of a, since he's showing more of the outside world than he did in the first one, he's kind of building more contrast. Yeah. So that when you see the underworld, it's so much more crazy than when they go back out to the normal life.
Yeah, but like what I mean is, even in the first movie, the scenes where we're seeing everyday life, people like the Maitlands before they die, and the Dietzes when they first move in, there's this relative tone of darkness still, and I don't pick up on that tone at all in modern Tim Burton movies. Like, I mean, there's not a ton of them to make that comparison with, but they're out there. And if you watch the Wednesday show, that's a show you would expect the Burton look or atmosphere to really be there, and it's not as much. There are moments of it, but it's used so sparsely that I don't know. It's just one of the things I thought about during the movie, like, where I'm like, oh, if I didn't know this was Tim Burton and it wasn't Beetlejuice, would it stand out as a Burton film? But that's just me. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it. Random thought.
You're not wrong. Without that kind of darker tone in the real world, you do kind of miss that Burton feel he always brings to his movies, that kind of weirdly dark aspect to everything. Mm-hmm. But again, I think maybe it's due to the contrast of the world or something, or maybe the way he's viewing the movie through. Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe he just got over it. Maybe he's getting older and he doesn't care for it as much in his movies.
Yeah.
Because if he's not doing it in his recent stuff too much, then, could be just a stylistic change he's done.
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean, 36 years, you'd probably think quite a few things would be different.
Yeah, and they were.
Yeah,
I mean, you could definitely tell all those new things were going on in the movie. And I kind of liked it. I think it spilled over actually pretty well. The original Beetlejuice is pretty edgy. A lot of that is because of Michael Keaton. And I think it's toned back, obviously, a little bit in the new movie. But there are those moments like the tough break fucker and like sending him down like straight to hell and shit. But yeah, so I don't know. What do you think didn't work about the movie? What are your gripes overall about that?
Just mainly like the Monica Bellucci useless storyline. Mm-hmm. Just, if she wouldn't have been in the movie and they would have just, let's say, cut her completely, how much more would we have got that would have just been better?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was going to be a bigger deal the way they made it seem, but then her and Roy just get eaten by the sandworm.
Yeah.
Which,
it did seem a little rushed.
That motherfucker Roy, dude. Oh my God. I wanted to stab him.
Yeah, Justin Thoreau just he didn't deliver in this movie. He felt really out of place for me.
He just,
I don't know.
I feel like that was the point besides the bad acting, but that could have been part of it too.
Yeah,
It just, yeah,
he
I hated his character,
he was lame.
which I'm pretty sure was the point they were
No,
trying
yeah,
to do.
I
But
mean, obviously,
God,
but
it fucking sucked.
it's okay for your. There's a way to film movies where you're not supposed to like the character,
Hmm.
but they're still good. And I think a good example of that is Catherine O'Hara in the first Beetlejuice. You know, Lydia doesn't like her, and we as the viewer pick up on that, and we don't like her either because she's pretty annoying.
Yeah.
And but she does it so well. It's done in a way where we are laughing like at her and with her, as opposed to Justin Thoreau, where I'm just like, how the fuck did this get done? Like, fuck this guy. I don't know.
I feel like all the awkwardness
Mhm.
people in the movie like felt like when he was around
Yeah.
was real. That wasn't acting.
Yeah. I wouldn't doubt it. He just, and I love Winona Ryder, but I also felt like she could have been a little bit different in the movie. I didn't feel she was like old Lydia, and I didn't feel she was a new version of Lydia. To me, she felt like in this weird third subcategory where I'm like, she's not bad, but I just don't. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, there were some questionable parts in her acting, but I thought she was pretty solid most of the way through.
Yeah.
Again, at 36 years, it's hard to probably play the same person and then figure out who they would be as an adult. Because, I mean, in general, compared to the Lydia in the first one, she's a lot more, or not a lot more, but she's just not so dark.
Yeah, which I liked because I think the expectation was that Jenna Ortega is going to come in here and be the new Lydia and be her this weird gothic version of her mom, but she wasn't. She was kind of a bitch, but she wasn't like
Yeah.
edgy as fuck, and just she had her reasons for being mad.
And she
And,
was
you
like
know.
her own person.
Yeah.
So, like, it actually made a new character instead of just the new Lydia.
Yeah. Which the movie, I thought, that's why I really expected the movie to be bad, because I thought I was going to purposely fall on old tropes. And it did with like the Beetlejuice wedding and the guy's subplot to switch his soul with Astrid, because of like a love relationship thing. But not really. It was kind of its own thing, but it just was like a different spin on it. But I like that little subplot of how she gets brought into the underworld.
I do
mean,
too.
I know people were saying, and you even mentioned that it felt like it was a little bit rushed with that guy,
It
but
was for sure at the end,
I don't know.
because meeting him takes a minute,
Yeah,
but then ending him takes 2 scenes and 35 seconds.
I just think it's trying to fall on the same thing from the first movie where Beetlejuice is just able to solve it in seconds because at the end of the day he's the one with the ulterior motive and it's about him, so he's just like, sure, I can take care of that. Pfft, no problem in seconds. Now what about what you promised me kind of thing. And that's what makes him so great. He's like a con artist.
So, here's something I don't know. What makes Beetlejuice so much more powerful than anybody else in the underworld? Like, I'm confused on that.
I think it's because like what Juno had taught him in the first movie, where she explains he started off in the underworld as her assistant, and her job is to teach people how to deal with being dead and how to haunt. She's essentially like an exorcist coach. So he learned from the best and then went rogue, and he learned all this other black magic shit and all this other wilder shit once he told Juno to fuck off, really.
Okay,
And that's
yeah.
how she kind of warns the Maitlands of that. Like, he's a rogue, but he's so badass, and like you can see what he's capable of in both movies.
Yeah,
He
no.
can like teleport and manipulate time, space, and like all that shit.
That's why I was like, who
He's
the
fucking
fuck
dope,
is this
dude.
guy?
He's awesome, man. It's like the manifestation of what you would expect, like the demon in The Exorcist is doing, but we can't see him. So he's making Reagan do all this shit. And with Beetlejuice, we just get to see like, that's right, I can do it all. I can do everything. But I just love Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. And
Absolutely.
I think he was good in this one again. I did miss some of his like comedic Michael Keaton rambles, like or not rambles, but I mean it's kind of rambling, but where he does that little like spastic freak out where he's like, every single time I see it, he'll do that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He didn't really do anything like that in the movie, but other than that, I think he was pretty on point. And for being 73, like
I can't believe
he stepped right
73.
back into it.
I can't believe he's 73.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's wild.
He
dude.
was, like you told me earlier, he jumped back into the role perfectly.
Yeah.
Little differences. Like you said, I do feel the movie was toned back a little bit, but he was still fucking nutty. And he jumped perfectly. His mannerisms were great. Matched exactly Beetlejuice. I love his little side thing when he talks.
Yeah.
Looks to the side and it's great. I love it, and he does it perfectly. And he definitely didn't miss the mark at all.
No.
And it's not his fault if they tone the back movie more. We're in a different time, more PC.
Exactly.
You got to be a little more careful these days when you have that stage like we talked about. But point is, I think he did great in the movie. He stepped in it, and him and Catherine O'Hare are, to me, the standouts.
I agree. She really killed it.
Outside of Roy, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Roy's the shitty standout, but
He's the shitty stand. Yeah.
they're good. Like she stepped right back into Delia the exact
Perfect,
same
yeah.
way. Like she's believable as a much older version of what we were first introduced to.
Yep.
And I think that rarely happens in a sequel. And then Willem Dafoe as well, because
God.
he just was like, he's a character that's not really needed, but he kind of steps into the little Juno side character thing from the first movie, where he's an underworld employee doing a different thing, and I really liked it. I liked the B movie vibe, and
dude.
just all of it was awesome.
I love all his scenes were so fantastical.
He kills it.
Because I'm a cop, or because I'm a detective. No, you're not. You're an actor. Thank you.
He's like, thank you
for always keeping it real.
It's so good. It was really well done. But,
it was.
And that's how I feel about the movie overall. It was just really well done. Like,
I was worried. I was worried this
Yeah.
movie was going to suck a bag of donkey dicks.
And I said, like I told you, I think I mentioned it in one of the episodes, it might have been Alien Romulus or one of the first ones we did together, but
It might have been, yeah.
I was like, if this movie sucks, I'm done with sequels, I'm done with reboots, I'm done with remakes, fuck all of it. But this movie gave me hope. So
There's, every now and then there's hope. Yeah.
yeah.
Only 36 more till Beetlejuice.
I don't know if they'll do it. I want it in a way, but I also don't. Sometimes I feel like this would have been a nice cap off to the story. How'd you feel about the baby juice, Beetle baby?
Juice Baby?
Yeah.
I fucking loved the Juice Baby.
That was pretty interesting.
Oh my God. I told you when we were walking out, I thought that the ending of the movie was gonna be this fucking terrible, stupid ass ending.
Yeah.
It was all happy. Lydia went with fucking Jenna Ortega's character. What's her name?
Astrid.
I keep thinking Abigail. Whoopsie. Astrid, and we're gonna live happy. And then she fucking is having a baby. Like, we're seeing her life.
Mm-hmm.
Lame. But then Baby Juice was born.
Yeah,
Baby
Juice.
I thought that was gonna be the sweet ending. I was like, this is how they're gonna do Beetlejuice. But
it was probably the edgiest part of the whole movie.
oh, for sure.
To be honest,
It's
like
Mama.
yeah. Even when it first happens, like when they go to him in the counselor's office and shit, and then he's just like, it's not my kid.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, that's on the way. And then it's like, what the fuck? And then just the way he kicks the baby and shit. It's pretty
It was
funny.
fucking great.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I just think that Michael Keaton deserves a round of applause because he carried the first movie, even only being in it for 17 minutes, which is wild to think about.
So crazy.
And then apparently, from what I saw in reports of the movie, he's only in about 17 minutes of this one. And having seen it twice, that's probably about right.
That's so crazy. It feels like more.
Just the way they cut it around. Well, yeah, it's just the way it's edited. And also, one thing I wanted to bring up, which I thought was funny. I don't know if anybody else picked up on it, but I love when he is telling Bob his backstory about how he met his ex-wife, and it shows him before he's dead, and he's explaining it in Italian and shit. The two things that make me laugh about it are, one, he says in the text, it says, "I was nothing but a humble grave robber." That sentence is so funny. And then the kickback to that is when he first meets Gina Davis and Adam Baldwin in the first one. Adam and of course I forget her name. Said it a million times, can't fucking remember her name. Anyway, their characters, and during their introduction where he's trying to get him to come down there with them, he's like, "I hope you like Italian." And now we find out that he's Italian, and I just think that's pretty badass. It's a nice little callback. Yeah,
that's tight.
It's funny too, because when I saw that, I actually had that part spoiled for me. I mean, I spoiled it for myself, I should say. I saw the backstory thing leak on YouTube, and I was like, I'm just going to watch it, because my dad had said a couple of weeks prior, after, we were talking about how pumped we are for the movie, he's like, they better go back and tell us a little bit about him before he was dead. And I like what they did.
Yeah,
I think
it
was
great.
Yeah.
Seemed exactly like what he would fucking do.
I also felt like the tone, having seen a couple episodes, like you said, I feel like the tone of the movie was more in line with the animated series. Yeah. Just the slapsticky, cartoony nature.
Definitely.
It was more front and center.
I agree with that. What didn't you like about the movie?
Same thing. The ex-wife plot line. And I think it's just because it was so meat and potatoes. Like, her introduction was great when she's like sewing herself back together with the song.
When she
it was pretty well done.
I knew that was Danny DeVito, by the way. I fucking knew it the second I saw the back of his motherfucking head. Absolutely.
But it was like, cool.
That's Frank.
And then she's just going around sucking souls, which was also pretty Tim Burton-y, the way they would shrink and then drop. I was like, oh, that's kind of a new thing for him, but feels Burton-esque.
I love Beetlejuice when he's like, "Oh yeah, she's a soul sucker."
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's good about him. I actually wonder if he improvised any of these lines.
I don't know. I didn't see, but I wouldn't doubt it, because everything that was said was something Beetlejuice would say. Definitely. And if you ad-lib 90% of the first movie, I mean, it's got to be hard for someone to write for you like that.
Yeah.
Like,
because you're the only one in that headspace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I feel like, I absolutely feel like he probably did.
How did you feel about the Jeffrey Jones treatment of the character? Obviously, we know the whys, but how did you feel about his death sequence with the claymation and shit? Was that weird to you? Because I felt like it was kind of weird.
A little bit.
Yeah. It just felt out of place. Like, I realized they can't use him, and they wouldn't want to use him, so an alternative is to just remake him, but he had to have given his permission, because the likeness is a spot-on claymation, and they even use this fucking picture at the wake. I'm
sure they probably put some money on his books.
Getting some jail money.
But I don't think they'd be that dumb, because if that got out, people would be pissed. You're being a pedophile.
A lot of the time, prisoners aren't allowed to make money off of shit like that. So, like, he probably made a deal where it's like, you can use my likeness, but all the proceeds to that go to an organization that fights pedophiles like myself or some shit. I've read about that type of thing before. I don't know, but I thought it was weird. But I did think it was pretty Burton-esque again to having him talk with the shark bite taken out of him and shit. And all of that was pretty funny and well done, I thought.
No, it was. I'm actually not seeing anything about Michael Keaton ad-libbing it at all.
I wonder if it's just one of those things where we're supposed to expect it because pre-production they were talking about how they were going to go back to the roots of how the first one was made.
Yeah.
Using the practical effects like the sandworm claymation.
I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. I liked that.
It's pretty
they
cool.
Went back and it still had the look of like the first movie.
I liked a lot of the cinematography in this movie too. I don't know how you felt about it, but there was like the way the camera was following Jenna Ortega on that first bike ride. I really liked how that was filmed. Or like the long shots of Lydia up in the attic window for the house when like the camera's moving in. There was just a couple standout shots where I was like, all right, Tim Burton, you're trying to get it again? You're trying to get people to be like, I'm Burton, bitch.
I really liked the scene. It was more like a picture almost, but it's when they first cut back to the house on Halloween and Roy's giving out carrots.
Oh,
to those fucking people.
Yeah.
Just
the framing
the sun,
of that shot.
Yeah, the sun's almost fully down. The orange, what would you call that? I can't think of it. Skyline, where the sun's going down, and then the house, which is still silhouetted in black,
right,
from Miss Dietz. I thought it was a great shot. When I saw it, I was like, "Woo!"
It did look good.
That's good. That's like so good it'll become a generic picture for every Halloween thing, you know?
Oh man, one thing we haven't even talked about yet with the movie is the Hot Topic effect that it's had, though. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's just Beetlejuice shit everywhere right now, which is obviously something that's going to happen with the marketing of a new movie.
Yeah.
But it was giving me mad Nightmare Before Christmas vibes. And I know that's not a Tim Burton film in terms of him directing it, but his production shit is fucking all over that movie. And you can tell by the fucking, it's just that Burton-esque Hot Topic effect. Because when we were in Spencer's a couple weeks ago, before we were seeing Alien, there was Beetlejuice shit fucking everywhere. And then I went into Hot Topic a couple days later, and I was like, fuck, dude. Like, as a Beetlejuice fan, on one hand, it's like, oh, look at all this Beetlejuice shit I can buy. And then on the other hand, I'm like, motherfuckers, where was all this Beetlejuice shit when I really wanted it? You know?
Dude, right?
It's weird. But I had a bunch of it as a kid because, like I said, we grew up with it, so we had the toys. In fact, this car on this shelf over here of mine, that is one of our childhood toys, for real. It's not like something I reacquired. It's from the animated show. It's this purple Cadillac. It's at the very edge here.
Oh, I see it. Yeah,
yeah, and it has two Beetlejuice figures with it. One in him using or wearing his underworld work uniform, and then the other one in his infamous the carousel scene in the first movie at the end where the arms get all long and shit. Yeah. So those are pretty cool. We had stuff as a kid, but it's like you would sparsely see any merchandise or memorabilia, and now that this movie's coming out, it's fucking everywhere. And
they
again,
discovered marketing and toys and just all that type of stuff.
Yeah. It's just wild. I call it the Hot Topic effect, though, because it doesn't work with everything.
No.
Like you won't see a fucking, like Beau is Afraid, for example. I know you haven't seen it yet, but it was pretty widely accepted by everybody, and it's a kind of a big deal movie, but you're not going everywhere seeing fucking Beau is Afraid merchandise,
Absolutely.
It's so weird, the dynamic between movies like Beetlejuice and a movie like that.
Well, I think it also comes down to what it's rated.
Yeah, because Beetlejuice, both movies, in a weird way, were marketed towards kids. Even though the first one's pretty wild to be marketed toward kids, in my personal opinion. Like,
I think it's one of those things. You make it funny, weird enough for kids to love it.
Yeah.
But not it's not that it's complex, but too complex for them to really understand at the time. So
Right.
that's how the parents love it.
No,
They
yeah.
get all the innuendos, all the things that the kids don't get. They just like, it's funny.
Yeah.
So it just walks that line really well.
Yeah, and they were better at that back in the day, where like they're making movies to appeal to all audiences because parents want to go to the movies, they want to take their kids to see a movie. Where's that middle ground? And I think they nailed it better back then. Where the new movies do it, but it feels like dad joke bullshit as the adult humor, and then the edgier shit is just non-existent. But this one definitely still had its moments.
80s kids movies are fucked up.
They are.
Indian in the Cupboard, The Dark Crystal, The Last Unicorn, Beetlejuice,
Gremlins.
Gremlin.
It's pretty freaky.
Who the fuck? What kind of fucking kids movies better than ours? But Jesus.
I love fucking Gremlins though. Like it's weird how all those movies, like Mogwais or
Mogwai.
not Mogwai is plural, but like Mogwai and Strife, they're both kind of creepy looking. Or Stripe, not Strife. They're both kind of creepy looking in their own ways, even though Mogwai is like largely lauded as cute. But even like Chucky, Chucky is definitely not aimed at kids, but it ended up having that effect on children. He's not real, I swear.
I don't believe you, but
so we do these podcasts in our respective spare bedrooms of each of our places, and Rex and I are both collectors of all kinds of shit. I collect a lot of horror movie memorabilia. So I've got, to my left, I've got every mask from all the slasher films, and right above Rex, just looming like a psychopath, is a replica of Chucky, and it's pretty creepy.
It is.
It's pretty good though. I picked it up fairly recently. Been using it to scare my brother's girlfriend. Just positioning him in random ass places in the house without telling her.
It's fucking great.
But anyway, I love the 80s. That caps off kind of what I was gonna say with Beetlejuice in the very beginning. Is it's like the 80s was the era where they tried so much shit, and a lot of it stuck. Terminator, RoboCop, Chucky, Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters.
And luckily, we got a sequel that was good.
Yeah.
Not just not a freaking nostalgia bait.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that. It's nice that they did it with kind of finesse.
With some love.
Yeah. Especially love, because... Yeah.
So if you give Beetlejuice 1 an 8.8, which is pretty damn high, what do you give Beetlejuice? Probably
an 8.
Damn, really?
I like it. I liked it. It made me laugh.
Good.
That like we said, that probably my favorite part of the movie is the receptionist bringing Willem Dafoe the coffee.
Yeah.
Every fucking
It's
time.
A great gag.
It is. It's just... You can't not laugh at how fucking ridiculous it is.
It makes you think of like old noir films, because I feel like that's what he's going for.
No, exactly.
There. Yeah,
they always had the receptionist who'd bring him coffee.
Say nothing, just hand him the coffee. I mean, she said some shit to him, but just the coffee.
She keeps him real.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll
give it a 9. I
expected it.
I really liked that movie.
It was good.
I just think it was well handled, like we said, and it really makes all the difference in the world to get Michael Keaton back in the role and for him to kill it.
You couldn't do it. I don't think you could. Yeah. I don't think there's another actor that could. Maybe Danny DeVito.
I would not watch that.
I would love to watch that. Are you kidding?
I love Danny DeVito, but people always say that as a joke for certain things. Like, I'd love to see Danny DeVito play Wolverine. Like, what? No.
I would pay, just like I paid for this movie, to watch that movie.
One of the funniest ones from a while back was the cast of It's Always Sunny should play the new Fantastic Four.
Oh, that's even better. I love that one so much.
It would weirdly work.
It would.
Because, the only weird part would be that Dee and Dennis are brother and sister, and Sue and, what's his name?
Reed Richards.
Reed Richards are husband and wife. But other than
They
that,
could just change that to Johnny Storm.
yeah,
They could just change that real quick,
yeah.
and it would make perfect sense. Hell yeah, Dennis
I would
is
watch
Reed
that
Richards.
shit.
But here's the fucking thing they do though that make it great. They still play their Sunny characters as with these powers.
It would work though because Reed Richards is notoriously known in the Marvel universe as a fucking dick, and
Dude, that'd be so
Dennis is a
good.
fucking
Yeah.
total asshole, dude. Oh man,
But yeah, Danny DeVito's great. I'm glad he was in this movie.
no, yeah,
For that
it was
couple
cool
seconds.
because I think the story behind that is the original janitor from the first Beetlejuice, which they were honing back to when fuck, I can't remember her name. But
Monica
Gina,
Bellucci?
no, Gina Davis's name in the movie. What is it? Like, why can't I fucking remember what her name is? It's Adam and fuck.
You
But-
have said it like 6 times tonight.
And it's weird because before we hit record, I said it to you like 3 fucking times, and then this, as soon as the mic is on, I
Barbara.
can't remember. Okay, Barbara and Adam. When they first get to the underworld, they see the janitor, and he's giving them directions, or he just looks at them, or whatever. Oh yeah, he talks to them when he pulls up the thing, and he explains some of the rules of the underworld to them and shit. I think that guy died, so they got Danny DeVito in to take his place, and it was something like that. But anyway, I really liked it, like I said, and I felt it did kind of capture that animated series vibe, which I grew up with, and I loved it. And one thing I want to say that might be unpopular, but I'm just going to say it, is if they make a third movie, I would like Lydia and Beetlejuice to end up together. It's just as weird as it is. It's
That would be
always
fucking
been
sweet.
something that I've wanted as a kid. Like, I know their age gap is weird, and I think that's why Lydia brings it up in the end of the movie. There, like the 600-year age gap kind of freaks me out or whatever. But in the animated series, they're like best friends. So it would be cool if they could figure out a way to mesh those two things.
That would be
And
cool,
just
yeah.
As I use the term the kids use these days, just ship those motherfuckers into a relationship. That would be
Maybe, but I feel like Beetlejuice smells bad.
cool.
That's got to be fucking
Again,
hard.
it would still just be necrophilia, but I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about a goth girl here. A little death should not scare her at all,
Is that a wiener joke?
What? No, I said a little death, not a little dick.
She'd be taking a little death.
I might be a little bit too grim for the audience. I don't know. But yeah, at the end of the day, Beetlejuice won. Beetlejuice. Fucking great movies to me.
Great.
I think they're two of Tim Burton's best. And we will cover Tim Burton in a future episode. When we get to both of those movies, we'll talk about them briefly. We'll kind of just toss our ratings for those two in the mix and move on. No, not because they don't deserve their due, but we did that special episode for them mainly because, like I said, they're really important to me. And
They're great.
yeah, I
They're
had
great.
to-
And the new one's worth seeing. So go fucking see it if you haven't.
definitely
You
give
shouldn't
Michael
be listening to
Keaton
this.
his props, and
Yeah.
give the whole cast their props. But
Watch Batman 89 after.
yeah,
Get that done.
the Keatmeister.
Hell yeah.
Speaking of Michael Keaton, have you ever seen the movie Desperate Measures?
No.
So it's Michael Keaton, and he's this murderer. I wouldn't call him a serial killer, but he's a murderer, con artist, thief. He's convicted of all these things, and he's on death row or something to that effect. And the cop is Andy Garcia in the movie. And Andy Garcia's son needs like a kidney transplant or a liver transplant or something like that. And he goes to Michael Keaton and he's like, look, you're the only one with the exact match to give that liver or kidney to my son. Will you do it? And Michael Keaton agrees, and he uses it as an excuse to escape, basically kill all these doctors and officers to get what he wants and get out. And it's a pretty great movie, but it's called Desperate Measures. If you guys have not seen it, check it out. It's one of those 90s heart pumping thrillers. but
Hell yeah.
He's tied in that movie though. Michael Keaton's just badass.
He is badass.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to be badass in... Are they still doing that movie on him as the villain from Spider-Man No Way Home or Homecoming?
Oh, the Vulture?
Yeah. Is he still getting his own movie?
I don't know. I have largely stopped paying attention to Marvel.
Mm.
So I'm not sure what the plan is. I thought he was going to reprise the role at some point because they were making it seem like that. But I don't know. I liked him in that movie, but I could care less, I guess, if he comes back as him. I don't know. I don't really like Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe.
I don't like Tom Holland.
I don't mind him. I just don't like how they had him rely so heavily on other people helping him. I want to see a Spider-Man movie where he's in the shit. He's got to use all of his knowledge and.
At least No Way Home, he fucking has a Spidey sense.
Yeah, true. But very true.
Beetlejuice, guys, it's a great movie. 1 and 2. Go check them out. Maybe if we give them enough love, it'll only be like 18 years till the third one.
The illustrious third.
The illustrious third.
You know what I want to give a shout out to, and we briefly mentioned it in the beginning, but is episode 10. It's pretty cool. You know, like I said, this has been pretty good fun.
It's been great. It's been great. 10 episodes in. That's crazy. That's a milestone to me.
Yeah, and we got it seems like a decently dedicated audience so far, so we thank you guys.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, shout out to you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate you listening. Please keep listening. Try to get more people to listen to us if you can, because we have a lot of stuff to cover, and it would be great to bring you along for that ride. I mean, we do have Metallica coming up. I mean, that's our next episode.
Yep.
And we talked about doing Jordan Peele. We're going to do him after that, I believe. I don't usually want to give promises because sometimes things don't go as planned. But I think movie-wise, unless, I don't know, it's up to you guys, or maybe up to you, Rex, if you want to do one on, it's coming out next month, Joker, the Joker sequel.
I think we should.
Yeah.
I think we absolutely should.
We could do the same treatment like we did for this one, 1 and 2.
Do 1 and 2, yeah.
I think that'll be a solid choice. So that'll be coming to you guys in October as well. We'll talk about both Joker movies, and you know they're a mixed bag, so they'll be fun to talk about.
It will be.
Yeah.
So yeah, remember, recommend us to your friends, your family. Ask them if they love hearing about their car's warranty to come listen to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that extended warranty could come in handy.
Yeah, could come in handy. You never know.
Or maybe they just like hearing two guys talk about fucking music and movies and all things entertainment.
I don't know. I need an extended warranty.
Extended warranty.
Either way, this has been another great episode. Number 10. Again, we gotta just...
Absolutely.
I heard a lot of people don't make this far.
Yeah, it's weird.
So I'm glad we did.
I think it's because what I was reading, because I've been doing a lot of podcast homework, because I want us to last for you guys, and I want to keep doing it for myself as well. But a lot of people go into it trying to make money, and we've talked about like, yeah, of course that would be cool, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to shoot the shit and preserve, you know, art in all its forms by talking about it and keeping it alive. And we might trash on some shit, but ultimately we like a lot of shit too. Case in point, you know, Beetlejuice. So we thank you guys for listening. This has been another episode of Deep Dive, and we will catch you next time. It's your boy Practical.
Your boy Rex. Take care.
Have a good week, everyone.